can be a leader, but a leader is a developed set of skills. It's a developed set.
Hello, hello, hello. Leadership State of Mind family. We are here. And guess what? It is not nighttime. I got Japan and Hawaii on the line. Your boy got some extra energy because we are doing this at a reasonable time and both of us are in the same place. Armand, how we doing, bro?
I can't complain. I can't complain. The weather, it is daytime here, which is interesting that we were able to sync this up in a reasonable time for both of us. My time, is coming very, very close here to exiting the pattern here in Japan. There are going to be some sad faces, but we are excited about the next challenge. Things are great, man. Things are great.
Yeah, I feel like we're just living the same exact life, just from two different locations, right? Like I
That
am
part.
also
That part.
getting ready to leave Hawaii, also moving to the East Coast. So a lot of transition, a lot of, just trying to stay on top of doing our job and taking care of those that we serve. Plus finding time to be a little bit like, take care of the family and be a little almost selfish to make sure that all of our stuff is in line is definitely challenging, but it's exciting. I'll be really
Absolutely.
excited when I know where I'm gonna live. Everything is
Same here.
the
Same here.
checklist is going good, and we're slowly getting ready. And then, I mean, how can we not be excited? The NBA playoffs are about to start. March Madness first weekend in the books. We have never done a March Madness together. I just want to
Oh, yeah.
cordially invite you now just to mentally prepare that I will either be at a location or renting an Airbnb with multiple bedrooms for the first weekend of March Madness next year. That is already done. You just have to sign up and take the trip. So cordially invited.
I'm here
But
for it.
first weekend
I'm
of
here
March
for it.
Madness is one of my favorite weekends. So it's been
That's
awesome.
too easy. That's
Yeah.
too easy.
Yeah, man. But yeah, so listen, I'm glad that we're on a good schedule. It's great to be able to sync up again and hopefully, for everyone watching, be able to be more consistent, especially getting ready to be on the East Coast and be in the same time zone. We have never been able to execute a podcast where we were actually at the same time unless we were in person together.
Yep.
So excited to do that and excited to get into the podcast and just talk about some stuff. So I'm going to kick it over to you first, man. It was all good just a week ago. What type of leadership things have you seen recently?
Yeah, all of the sessions that we're going to talk about is going to revolve around one thing. And this is the amazing book. And I texted you yesterday about it. The book that I'm reading that has completely messed me up. It's called Thinking in Bets by Ann Duke. And Duke was a World Series of Poker champion, and she has written an incredible book that has kind of messed me up. And the reason why it falls into it was all good just a week ago was because she has a chapter in her book called Chess versus Poker and its relation to the real world. Now, if you've
Sure.
known me for
Yeah.
any amount of time, you know that I play chess. I've played chess my entire life, highly, highly ranked in chess, and I see the world kind of through a chessboard. And she makes a statement in her book that it's not chess, it's poker. And I was really like kind of on my what you talking about, Ann? Because I don't know if I can go here. I don't know if I can go there with you. And then she lays out an argument for things why life more closely resembles poker than chess. Chess, there's a structure. The person that is most knowledgeable, that is most talented, typically is going to win out. But we both know that life don't work like
Does not.
that.
It
There's
does
so
not.
many uncertainties. There's a bit of luck. You could play the most right strategy in poker and things still don't work out, which more closely reflects life. Chess, though there are billions and billions of possible outcomes based on individual games, you know what the structure is. It's pretty, if somebody is extremely knowledgeable, they're going to come out on top typically. That's just not how life works. And I had to kind of reset my brain patterns, had to face with better information, really go and confront myself and, hey, do I really see the world through a chessboard? Or is that a limiting factor for me and how I see the world? because I'm only limited to this structure that is a chessboard? Am I not leaving room for uncertainty subconsciously, because I view this is how I view things. And it's more of this, and we've talked about this before, about making sure that your outlook and your perspective is not rigid, that is kind of like water, that you are able to adapt when presented new and better information. So I've been going through this thing where, man, I had to follow my own advice. I've been presented some better information that has been supported. And now I got to make a decision here. Do I reject that, even though I know that it's better information? Or do I accept it and say, hey, yeah, I was wrong, or not as right as I could have been. And I'm obviously on the side of, hey, I'm not as right as I thought I was, and
Sure.
now have kind of opened my aperture a little bit. So yeah, it's been an interesting week for me with with this book. Very rarely does the life-changing book actually live up to the life-changing book. Right. People always say, oh, it's a life-changing book. No, this is a good one. This is a good one. And I'm yeah, I'm a fan. I'm a fan.
Yeah, I love that.
That
And
got me.
I think what you'll find probably at the end of it is it's somewhere in the middle. Like maybe there's times where life is a chessboard and maybe it's time that you look at it a little differently. But again, just like we talk about on the show all the time, this is about self-improvement, becoming better versions of ourselves. And so being able to have that self-assessment, that emotional intelligence to kind of develop and grow and continue to look at new ways and being the best version of yourself is dope. So love that, man.
Yep,
That's
yep.
awesome.
What about you, man?
Yeah, so over the last couple of years, I've kind of built this process to be able to provide some good feedback to those that serve on some of the submarines that I work for. And my big thing this week is exceptions are only half the story. Follow ups and mentorship is where the magic happens. So we have talked about the importance of setting expectations quite a bit on this show. But I think the thing for me is that it's only step one of three, right? Like you set the expectations, you tell people what you're looking for, but then there's this area of knowing your people. And I will use numbers as a reference. You have to have that. You're going to have a couple people, maybe one or two, that are your set it and forget it guys, and say, hey, I need this in a week. And then in a week or sooner, you will have your delivered thing that will be there for you. But then you have your the 2-time reminder guys, and then maybe even your 3 or 4-time reminder guys. And if you don't know your people, then you can't build in the follow-ups to be able to mentor them and to get them to where you want, right? Because so you have to know what lever to pull, but every lever can't be my number one ace in the hole. Sometimes I got to task these things. Sometimes these things have to be mine, and sometimes I have to task them to my 2 or 3 follow-up guy, or maybe even my 3 or 4 follow-up guy, and then provide mentorship in a hope and a prayer maybe that they become 1 or 2 follow-up guys. You get what I'm saying? Like follow-up
I
guy
do.
is a weird way to say it, but like I hope everyone on the show kind of gets it, because you have to build these follow-ups into the tasks and the expectations that you give to those you serve. So understanding your people, providing the follow-ups, and then providing the mentorship is really how you get to not having to do all the work yourself. So it's my tip of the week. Make sense?
Yeah, it makes perfect sense. And so I'm not going to, as the industry says, I'm not going to double click on your statement here and expand on it, because just so happens that the expansion happens naturally in the main text, the main discussion for this week. It's wonderful how that segue happens. So I definitely agree with you, and I will I will address that further as we expand the conversation in this podcast.
Love it, man. Love it, dude. So you kind of already said, so we usually talk about Blueprint now, what book we're reading right now. Kind of already mentioned it
Yep,
a little bit. Anything you want to
yep.
expand on that?
Yeah, it's just it really challenges. Like I said, the name of the book is Thinking in Bets by Ann Duke, and my bars even come from the book. I'm not. This is not self-generated bars this
Cool.
week. I know, right? I know. But it just a change. This one hit me unexpectedly, because I was this was recommended. I listened to another podcast as I was driving, and this person was talking about 7 books that had kind of really helped refine their perspective. And that book was one of the ones I hadn't read. I'm also trying to read all the books on the CNO's reading list as well. But it's just a separate goal I got for myself. But this book kind of really hit me from left field because I wasn't prepared for what was coming. You see, thinking in bets, and it's like, okay, we're gonna talk about poker. We'll talk about strategy. We'll talk about how to adequately maneuver in uncertainty, and that's what I was kind of expecting. But this was a lot different than just that. It's really well layered, in the conversation from leadership, to life, to decision making, to problem solving, like all the aspects of just existing, as a leader in whatever space you're in, whether it's a parent, whether it's at school as a teacher, whether it's in industry in an organization, doesn't really matter. It kind of covers the breadth of a place that you will find yourself in, a space that you will find yourself in. And I just wasn't ready initially for what was coming, but it was definitely happy surprise. So I give all the flowers to this book and highly recommend it to read this book. It's phenomenal.
That's awesome, man. That's cool.
What about you? What's it looking like for you?
Yeah, so I've heard you talk about the life-changing events that took place for you with your trip to Tony Robbins live. I don't remember which show you went to, but I just remember you having a lot of conversation about Tony Robbins. And I have listened to him talk, but I haven't actually read any of his books. And so I read Unleash the Power from Within last month, and man, what a great book! A great book for alignment, a great book for focus, a great book for perspective. Just I would say there were a lot of just things to take out of that discussion just to kind of reinvigorate me a little bit, get me a little more focused. And, I mean, again, at this point, I do read a lot. And so the book wasn't as life changing as yours is, but just great perspective and really helps paint a picture of like how important your attitude is and how you look at things as far as your ability to be able to, be successful in life. So dope book. And then from there, have you read that one or listened to that one or?
Yeah. So I will tell you, anytime you mention consuming anything from Tony Robbins, I have to like keep myself contained
Sure, because you've read a
because
lot?
I've gone with yeah,
Yeah,
I got a lot. I got
yeah,
a lot. I, I went to an event in 20 I went there in 2019. Um, right as I was getting to the shipyard first, going to Pearl. And I was in a really weird shift in my life because I I thought I wasn't going to be in the Navy after, after that tour in 2019, just based on the fact that I was in the submarine force, but out of submarine force. It was kind of weird because I was at Pearl Harbor Naval Shipyard. And one of my good friends, Chris Davis, was like, "Hey, let's go. We're gonna go to this event." I'm like, "All right, cool." We go, and it is one of the most life changing events that I've ever been to. Talk about it in my book, and talk about walking on fire. That was freaking incredible. But the information and the experiences and the networks that you build out of those events, I will tell you, man. We talking about linking up for
March Madness?
first week of March Madness. Going
Yeah.
to one of those events, bro. I'm telling you, it
Well,
lives up to the hype.
hey,
It
maybe we
lives up
put
to
that
the
on
hype.
the list.
Yeah, I mean, I will tell you, I was skeptical. I was very skeptical going in, and that was the event that I went to, Unleash the Power Within. And as an in-person event, they do online virtual events now. I don't subscribe to virtual events. I'm pretty sure they add some value, but in person, there's nothing like it. It is worth every single penny and more that you will spend on it. I guarantee it. I'm willing to put my money up for somebody when I recommend it. It's like, no, bro, I'm telling you right now, if you don't like it, I will give you your money back. Me personally. That's how I feel about it. That's how impactful I think those events are. A lot of people say it's a bunch of hoo-hoo and um, mystical and new age and all. Now, no, it's grounded in fact. It's not weird. It's just good stuff.
Sure. All right, yeah, so I enjoyed the book a lot, and you saw the live version, so that's awesome. Uh, and then yeah, man, like rolling into bars, I took something from the book as well. There was a
Yeah.
lot. There was a lot that I could have pulled from. Honestly, man,
I was about to say it's a lot in that one.
highlighted a lot of things, and so I pulled back through it, and the thing I wrote down is the only thing keeping you from what you want is the story you keep telling yourself. To me, that was the overarching theme, is like the power of your mind to positively or negatively affect you like people don't understand. And the story you keep telling yourself is the what's going to allow your story to take place and unfold. And I mean, to me, that's just it just resonated to me because I try to be optimistic. I try to, paint myself in a positive light. And you can tell yourself, I'm too tired to do this right now, or I don't have time to do this right now. And if that's the story you're telling, then it's never gonna get there. So yeah, that was my bars for the week. So what you got over there from the book that's been on your mind lately?
Yeah, I will tell you just in response to your bars, man. That's one of the things I talk to my kids about the most.
Hmm.
Um,
Same.
Ask them when I talk to them, what is the story you just told yourself about what I said?
Sure.
Because I was like, I said this. What did you hear? What is the story that you tell? I'm conditioning my kids even now to make sure they refine that story so it's not clouded. Because that story, because your ego is going to put some seasoning on it, whatever emotional state that you're currently in when you hear those things, that's going to put some seasoning on it, right? So like by the time the story, you say some words, by the time the story is made into somebody's head and coming out of their mouth to repeat what you just said, it could be completely different, right? So that is, man, yeah, I like once again, another topic that I could talk about for ages. But my bar for the week is as follows. It is, what makes a decision great is not that it has a great outcome. A great decision is the result of a good process, and that process must include an attempt to accurately represent our own state of knowledge. And that state of knowledge, in turn, in some variation of I'm not sure. I have a one quote that kind of stays with me forever is, the beginning of knowledge is the recognition that you know nothing.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the perspective of starting. That's when learning can happen. That's when growth can happen. When you recognize, hey, this is the state that I'm in. And it may be I'm not sure. But at least starting from that place, you can recognize what you don't know and grow from it. And part of building great processes that hopefully gets to great outcomes is start being accurately depicting your own state of knowledge. Do you actually know these things, or are you going to have to start from a place of I'm not sure? And a lot of times our ego gets in the way, and we don't want to come from a place of I'm not sure because we don't want to look. We don't want to look incompetent. We don't want to look like we don't know something. We want to project perfection, especially based on the state of being a leader. But that doesn't serve anybody but us. And leadership invariably is not about us, right? So coming from a place of every now and then, I'm not sure about something, that sometimes telling that truth is going to be the thing that gets you to a place that where you can grow, your team can grow, and you can build process that hopefully makes great outcomes.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, it goes back to what we're saying. It's that ability to be a little bit vulnerable with your team, right? Saying like, "Hey, we're going to
Yep.
try this thing, and I think it's the best thing based on all this information. But at the end of the day, it's new, and so I just don't know. And so we're going to have to assess, revisit, look at it." I just did a reel the other day that talked about that. I said something like trying for the first time is the biggest step because you might not have all the answers and you might not know everything. But if you don't try the first time, then you can't make anything great and you can't do the second time or the third time and get to the final product. So, yeah, man, I love that. Love it. Love it. So,
No doubt.
99 problems, but leadership ain't one. What's your tip of the week?
Goes back to the book, almost directly correlated with the quote. Don't get hypnotized by the allure of outcomes.
Woo-hoo-hoo. You talk about that a lot. That's one of your favorite conversations.
It's one of my favorites. One of my favorites. In the Navy, we have the Battle E, we have all these awards, and we use those awards to validate what right looks like. And it takes no circumstances into account other than the fact that you won that award, right? It doesn't take into effect the variables at play. What did the other teams look like? Did you just finish deployment? There are so many variables at play that could lead to these outcomes that do not reflect how well you actually are. or how well your team is trained. Can you take your processes, take what you do day in and day out, what your methodology is, translate that into pillars, translate that into principles, and move it somewhere else, and somebody else can be successful? Because if you can do that, then that's where that is the nirvana. But you just so happen to stumble over into a good, into a good result. Oh, we came back from deployment and we did all these great things, but we ain't nobody trained, nobody qualified, all these different things. Now, I kind of got into the Navy side of things, but it's still the same. Hey, our quarterly numbers are up. Yes, awesome, right? That's an outcome. But what does a day-to-day process look like, right? Because if I zoom in on your organization and I found out that you just fired 20,000 people, and that's why your revenue now your revenue versus your profit is now, increased based on that. Is that a process that's repeatable? Because I
Yeah.
don't think so.
Yep. Yeah.
Right? So I get so hypnotized by the outcome, I completely throw away what is this repeatable? Can it get me there again? Or can it get me a better process, a better outcome going forward? But we're so captivated by results. We're so captivated by outcomes that we miss the mark. And people are terrified to think long term. Terrified. Well, what about tomorrow? What about the thing? We're building tomorrow so that next week, next month, next year, we can be in a better place, right? So sometimes when you're refining a culture, when you're refining a team in terms of processes, results go down because it's a new thing. People are getting used
Sure.
to it. There's a learning curve there. But once it actually starts that trajectory cannot stop. It's undefeated. It's undefeated. So don't get hypnotized by the allure of outcomes. You do this, you find yourself in the top 1% of any organization, any team, hands down.
I don't even want to follow that up. We should end the podcast. We just want to end the podcast on that. Just keep it moving. I mean, I love that, dude. So my tip of the week is culture is key, and you can't build a culture without a list of non-negotiables and a plan to build them into your daily drumbeat. The more and more I have conversations with leaders, first of all, the podcast we did on culture versus climate comes up in a lot of conversations. I think defining to people that climate is the outcome of culture, and that when you shortcut culture to get to climate, you end up in a situation that is not aligned with what your objectives are and your goals, and what are your non-negotiables and the pillars of your organization. So to build culture, you have to have a mission statement, a list of non-negotiables, some pillars. I don't care. Whatever term you want to put on it, but you got to have something. And then you can't be willing to bend on those things for the short, narrow-sighted win of climate. You got to focus on the culture, because the culture is key. And once you get the culture right, you're really able to make that a part of what your daily drumbeat looks like, your weekly, your monthly, and then your goals become aligned with that culture, and you just build stronger teams. But people do not walk it, like, understand that concept, and then they're left putting out fires. My term lately has been like leadership firefighters, right? If you if all you do is run from fire to fire to try to fix the problem, you're not building anything that's going to outlast you. You're not instilling a culture that is built to retain talent and to build winning teams and allow people to then go from there and grow and expand and start their own team somewhere else. Like, you're not doing any of those things. You're just putting out fires. And putting out fires is not what leaders do. That's what managers do, right? Like, leaders sometimes have to do it, but that should not be your day-to-day goal. You should have a mission and a goal and an objective every day. And it all starts with understanding what your identity is, what the culture is, and how to get there.
Love it. Love it. We spend a lot of time talking about, a lot of time talking about culture, because that is the thing that wins. Hands down. Hands down. It's what wins. Long-term, sustainable legacy, culture.
Love it. Then maybe you want to get into the main topic?
Might as well.
Let's do it.
A lot of times on this podcast, we don't say a lot of controversial stuff because leadership in action is pretty simple. As long as you can get past yourself, as long as you can get yourself out of the way, the act of doing those things is simple. It's not easy. It's not easy. Let's get that distinction, make that distinction really clear now. Simple to follow, to understand, to absorb, but not easy to do because there's so much learning that you have along the way. But I'm gonna say something a little bit controversial. I don't know if it's controversial for you, for some people out there. If I say this, and I've said this on numerous occasions, it's like, I don't know about that one. But just because you are great at your job does not mean that you're ready to lead people. Just because you are great at your job does not mean you're ready to lead people. I personally believe this is the biggest leadership gap that exists in every single organization across the world. Because we all are attracted to that top performer. We are all attracted to that person that just gets it, that person that has all the talent in the world. And then we decide to give them a team. We decide to promote them because that excellence, the excellence that they exude requires promotion.
Sure.
It just does. That's how it goes, right? That talent, we talk about it all the time, right? We go back to my man, Macho Man Randy Savage. Yeah, the cream rises to the top.
It's really
This is
good.
exactly what happens. Right. That was good. You like that one?
I did
But
like that one.
this is what
I don't know how many people have heard that, but like me personally, like I enjoyed it.
I wish I was just brought the prop with me and had the cream ready to go. But anyway, I digress. But the thing is that nobody tells us that. Nobody told me. There's like, oh, you're going to take over your division as a second class. Oh, okay, sure. And watch me fail
Yeah, sure.
over and over and over again, right? Nobody told me before I got promoted that it was going to be that way. I thought since I was good at the thing that I was doing, that I was naturally going to move into this leadership role and do just as well. Wrong.
Yeah.
Wrong.
And I think we got to paint a picture, and I'll be fully transparent. I'm willing on this podcast, this free podcast, to offer some direction and some ways to help bridge the gap. But like, I'm not going all in on this conversation because for that you would have to pay me to come to your company to execute said plan. However, if we paint the picture, right, the picture, the easiest way to do this is to look at sales. Okay, so
yeah, oh yes,
like easy, it's easy. So someone shows up. Great personality, very good on the phones, very good at selling, has mastered the motto, and they become good at selling. And they outperform the rest of the people that sell. And so, a year or two later, now they need a manager to run this 12-person sales team. Well, obviously, the person that's outperforming everyone in sales should be the leader. And then they become the manager, and now they're the leader. And now we'll pause real quick. And if this is you and you're listening, and you have not provided any type of leadership training to those people, reach out to us, and we can come out and provide that training. Okay, I'll keep going. So now they're in this leadership position, and they were really good at selling, and they were really good at being on the phones. And now someone is not as good as them. They can't just say, well, do what I did. It doesn't work. It doesn't translate. And so if you take that analogy in any situation, in the Navy, out of the Navy, in the military, out of the military, sales, construct, like it doesn't matter. Just because you're good at your job does not mean you know how to lead. And so that requires a different skill set, a different muscle, a different level of effort to be able to figure out what it looks like to lead.
Absolutely. Because it's super interesting, right? Because if you think about the skills that make you individually great, if you just kind of just extract those skills, those attributes of that top performer, you would say individual excellence requires, number one, control, right? Precision, right? Just understanding down to the millimeter what needs to get done. When somebody says a goes against what you are promoting. You know exactly how to counter, right, in real time. Going back to sales, personal output, you have mastered the ability to your work ethic, like all these things, personal mastery. Like you've done all the things necessary to get the best out of you. But what's interesting is that leadership requires almost the opposite. So when I talked about control, in leadership, it requires letting go of control, right? When I talk about, the precision, you getting it right down to the millimeter, guess what? For leadership, it requires delegation and coaching to get those people to be as precise as you. When we talk about personal output and personal mastery, that's just technical intelligence. Leadership requires emotional intelligence. It requires vision. They are counter to each other. There's a really good book that's out there that talks about what got you there won't get you there. The book I think is incomplete in fully fleshing that out, which is why we're doing this podcast, because you can take the information from us. But the thing is that to go from, it's such a shift to go from this personal focus area where I'm going to get the best out of myself and then go right into, now I got to get this greatness and excellence out of the people that I lead. I've never diagnosed how I do what I do. Like I've never thought about, when I go to this step, this is what I'm thinking. This is how I prepare myself down to the granular level. I had never thought about any of those things until they put me in a position to lead. And I was like, oh man, I guess I do. And then just do what I do.
Yeah.
Just do it like I did it. You saw me do it. Just do that.
How did that?
That's what we end.
And how did that work for you? Would you say that was a success story?
It did not. It did not. It
Yeah.
did not. But organizations, despite all of the research, and there's tons and tons of research on this. There's even a name for this. It's called the Peter Principle, where organizations continually, and the Peter Principle came out like in the 90s. Like this has been known, right? That we continue to do it, and we don't meet the delta for those individuals from technical expertise to emotional intelligence, right? There's this huge gap that exists. And this is not I'm telling you right now, there's not a one podcast fix for you and your organization or you and for your team. This is starting the conversation, right? Because like I said, I think this is the largest leadership gap that exists in every organization because we all fall prey to it. But, it's like Medusa, right? It's like looking into her eyes and, I get captivated. Now I'm turned to stone, right? I know not to look her in her eyes, but it's something about it, right?
Did it anyway.
So we fall prey, to the same trick over and over again. And we have to get past this. We have to get past this where we recognize, okay, I know this person has significant talent. I know this person is gifted in this way. How can we take that talent, translate that talent, leverage that talent in such a way where we can help them become an equal or even better leader than they were as an individual?
It's not an easy transition, right? And it's one of those things where, okay, we know it's coming. We're going to promote this person and they deserve the promotion, right? Like they deserve it based on what they did. But what are we going to do to have them ready to operate at the same level? Now, I would argue that some of that stuff should happen prior to the promotion, right? What does your team do for mentorship and training? What does it do to teach soft skills? What does it do to teach about emotional intelligence, to teach about leadership? What are the things that you have developed in-house that you think is important? Because, I think regardless in where you're at and what you do, there comes a time where people like their job, but maybe they love people more. Like maybe they like sales, but they love people more. And what I mean by love people more is like love the opportunity to like do better for them than how they had it. Like the opportunity to manage, to lead, to do those type of soft skills, and that they fall in love with that. But the only way you can get people to fall in love with that is to have a culture that teaches it, that it teaches you about what that looks like to grow personally, to be ready to take on the responsibilities of a team. But if the only thing they focus on is the numbers and the people, then it's really hard for them to be ready when their name gets called, because just do what I do does not work, right? And so
Yeah.
and so how do you build that in? How do you say, "Hey man, I want you to continue to be authentic and genuine in who you are. I want you to make sure that as a leader you continue to be you, because you got you here. However, how you deliver things to your team and how you stay calm and don't get frustrated, not everyone is as natural on the phones as you. I mean, we could go back to, back in the day. I don't know if, people that watch the podcast, I don't know if you know this, but you used to actually have to go to a bar without meeting someone prior to, and actually like walk up to someone and engage in a conversation. Super crazy. I know it's outside the box. It's a separate conversation and maybe a separate podcast. But my point to you is some people were better at that than others. Some people could just walk up to someone, not know them, and start a conversation. That doesn't mean that the other person isn't good. It just means that some people have certain skills that others do not. And the same thing is going to happen in industry. Some people are just going to be better at those things, but that doesn't mean that some of those skills can't be taught. And it doesn't mean that it prepares them for the next level. And so at your organizations, what are you doing to build future leaders outside of the nuts and bolts of the industry? Because I think that's it. That's where the gap is happening, is that we're allowing the focus to be strictly on the outcome. Look at that. Look at how we rolled that back into it, directly into the
Love to see
outcome,
it.
directly into the numbers, and not into how are we getting those numbers there, and who are the people that are building the culture, and how do we keep the magic sauce in house. If you're not having those conversations, and I'm sorry, the only story that really comes to mind is, you know, it was my one of my bosses. What we do in the submarines, we talk a lot of tactics. And one of my bosses was well respected, and they just respected him as a leader, and he was a great leader. Okay. But every week they did tactics training. And then he was frustrated with them not being the leaders that he wishes that they were. And I was like, well, what if you started doing some leadership training, like, once a month? What would be the bad part of that? And it was this whole conversation that once we had it, he was like, well, that makes a lot of sense. And then it became a part of what they did. And then it was their favorite discussion. They looked forward to that discussion and dialogue. And so if we acknowledge that what got you there isn't going to get you there, then we have to decide, are we going to wait until the promotion happens to build that muscle, or are we going to instill things throughout the year to make sure that when the time comes, we have people that are ready to step in that role. And then of course, the continued development once they're in the role. You have to be aware of it, you have to acknowledge it, but then you have to build processes to make sure that they're ready for that transition, because it is different. It's great when you're just a one of one and all you got to do is do your thing. Man, recruiting, when it was like, hey man, go find people to join the Navy and get them to join. And then when you're done, you can go home. Like, that was great. It was a strong suit for me. It was something that I enjoyed doing. I'm passionate about the Navy, but when you go from that to running an office where now you have to get other people to now get people to join the Navy, do what I do does not work. It doesn't translate. So, you gotta think about all of those things. And I think when you do, then you can try to start to build a framework of what it would look like to build stronger teams that are ready to transition from one thing to the next.
Absolutely. And so what does it look like, right? You may have that person that you've promoted and you're trying to figure out whether or not this person falls into that category, because I think there's some correlation to the how well you are at performing your individual job is like inversely proportional to how well you will turn out as a leader, right? Without the proper training. If I just went from here, right to the leadership role, right? So what are the things that the team is saying, especially if you are the one that is appointed that leader, you're in a space, maybe you're above, the team, where you have a bunch of leaders that are leading under you. And now you're trying to determine, hey, do I have some gaps in this person's knowledge. Well, what is the language that's coming out from the team? What are you hearing, right? Do you hear the term micromanagement? Right. And
Yep.
as you observe and you see them always being brooding, always being overbearing over their team. They are the ones that are speaking the most in the meetings and they're cutting people off. No, they are taking that owner, not they taking the ownership, which is good, right? But they're taking it from an operator standpoint, not a leader standpoint, right? They're still in that operator perspective, how they're relating to the problem and put to the team, right? So they're micromanaging. What else are they doing? They're redoing everybody else's work, right? They may say, hey, I'm delegating. Yeah, I am delegating. And give somebody a task. They get that product, and now at 2 o'clock in the morning, they've gone in and reconfigured everything because they didn't like the way it was done. Or they went and redid whatever maintenance or redid whatever calculations because they didn't like how it was done, right? They're also just trying to control everything. They're trying to be everywhere, right? And you hear this language come from the team. It's like they're so controlling, so overbearing. They're making all the decisions. They are not putting people in a position where their expertise can be leveraged and they make those decisions. They can be grown into leaders themselves. And one of the most dangerous places is they start competing with their team. So they're when they see maybe that somebody is more talented in a specific area than they are, they will try to squelch their shine. They will try to push that person down. We're not going to go with that recommendation, even though it's coming from the person with the best expertise on the team. But because it didn't come from you, you let your insecurity win, and now you're the person that's going to push and put a lid on your team because you don't want to look quote unquote bad, right? When it's your team, right? Your ego has started to tell you this story that they're not going to value you as much if you're not the one that's bringing the solutions to the table rather than your team. This is what it looks like. So if you're starting to see this, if you have this as a part of your leader's attributes, it's time to start doing something about it, right? And it starts with a hard truth. Hey, you're not a good leader, but you're not a good leader yet, but we're going to start the process to help you along the way, right? And there's going to be some offense there. I will tell you, living in this place, like I got told I wasn't a very good leader. There was offense that was taken. What do you mean I'm not a good leader? So you need to make sure you got the facts too, right? It can't just be, hey, you ain't a good leader because I don't like you. What are the results? What are the processes that are failing along the way that speak to that? So I think that's the kind of that starting point, that hard question, that hard truth. You're not a good leader yet. You are great at what you did at this level as an operator. You're a great operator. You are not a great leader yet. Giving that person the opportunity to accept that truth or reject that truth will really determine on how well of a leader they ultimately become. What do you think?
Yeah. Yeah. It's just one of those things that no matter where you have that conversation, they either agree or disagree. And then you have to have facts ready to back that up. But then you also got to be ready to mentor, be ready to train, be ready to bring them up to the next level. The other thing I think a lot about is that, this was one of my weaknesses for sure. It is very easy to find your replacement or to like someone that is like you. It is harder to acknowledge that there are people that are different than you, that just because they do it differently doesn't mean that they're not successful in the way that they do it. And so sometimes that become in itself the problem, right? Is that they don't want to promote someone because they're not like them, but like that's okay. Like we don't have it all figured out. And yeah, I just think that until we figure out a way to bridge the gap and until that becomes a priority and until leadership curriculum and that level of mentorship is part of the discussion, then I think it's going to be really hard for people to learn how to lead, right? If they're not, I want to be the CEO, and that means I need to read and I need to get into books and I need to go to these courses and I need to go see Tony Robbins. Like That's the 1%. Those people are going to figure it out and they're going to be successful, right? But what do you do with the other 30% that want to be leaders but don't know how? And I think that's on leadership's that's their job to take on that role and to kind of help bridge the gap for them. And I know
Yeah,
it's something that I put a lot of energy into, right? Like in my job, I think that I'm supposed to vet those people and help build the next generation of leaders. And the amount of energy that I put into the mentorship and the amount of leadership training and discussions that I make available to them and deliver to them, I think, you know, that requires a lot of work. And so if you're in this role and you're like, man, I need to start working on that. I just know that that in itself is a job. That in itself is a mission. And that's why we're here to help you if you need help.
yeah. And one of the main reasons why it's so hard to bridge that gap is because it's not a technical problem. This is not a ones and zeros equation that you can formulate to get somebody to go from being a great operator to a great leader. Because number one, this is not an intellect problem. We have to recognize the problem that we're trying to solve when we identify this gap. For somebody to go from a great operator to a great leader, if it was all about intellect, we wouldn't be having this conversation, right? If I can give somebody just a simple curriculum to go through, hey, do X with Y when you see this, right? And they do this and practice this, and now they become, a great leader. No, no, no. This is a maturity issue. This is an emotional human issue, right? Because the things that leadership demands require a person with a high level of emotional intelligence, right? To be a great leader, I got to be able to perspective take. I had to have an emotional range to meet people where they are. I got to be able to delegate and not judge. I got to have systems awareness. I got to be able to pattern recognize, right? And I got to be able to adapt to different people. And the term that you talked about here short, in the just now was affinity bias. Seeing people that look like you, think like you, talk like you, and then naturally attributing your skills and your talent to them because y'all like trucks or and fishing, right?
Yeah.
So, but the
I don't like
things that
truck.
require you to be a great leader require an enhanced maturity level. And that's the problem that we're solving here is maturity, not intellect. When we recognize the problem that we're trying to solve here with people in terms of helping them become better leaders, if we solely remain on the intellect side, we'll go to all these books and we've heard it before where people have talked about, oh, I need more tools in the toolbox. Well, those tools in the toolbox are great. But if your maturity level hasn't enhanced, but your all the tools have, you have a greater propensity of just becoming more manipulative rather than effective, right? Um, so we're not trying to create better manipulators. We're trying to actually create better leaders. And that target has to happen on their maturity. And you may ask, like, well, how do you make somebody more mature? Well, you first have to challenge them. You have to challenge them with that opening salvo. Hey, you're not good yet. And I say yet to leave the opening there for a person because if I say, hey, you're just not good, I don't want to be definitive in my statement about somebody. I don't want to say, hey, this is where you are. This is where you always gonna be. No, hey, there's a process coming behind this. There's an intentional growth product that we're going to put you in touch with to help you go from being that great operator to that great leader. Right. But we have to solve the problem with the maturity and help people grow in their awareness and their perspective and their outlook and how they see the world first before we start with all of the intellectual tools. Hey, do this, do this, do this, try this tool, read this book, try this thing. It's a maturity in emotional issue first. And that is the key. Is out of all the things that we have to do, it starts with helping achieve and grow somebody's maturity. What do you think about that?
Yeah. I mean, obviously everything you're saying makes a lot of sense, but finding a way as a manager and as a leader right now to start building that in your teams is I think the key contributor, right? And I think that starts with, hey, what's your sync up in the morning sound like? What's your roll call in the morning? You got a motivational speech ready for them. You got a 5-minute story to tell them that gives them some alignment. Are you passing out book recommendations? What's your end of the week wrap up look like? Are you giving some wins out to the team? Are you showing them what right looks like with actions, not words? I think if you've never seen what right looks like, then you can never execute it to the best to the best of your ability. If you've never seen it, you only know what you know. There's this whole other world that exists. No one is if you don't show it to your people, how can you expect them to know how to lead that way? Right? I mean, I'm sure there's the one-offs, but I would say overall it's they got to be taught. They got to be able to take in information to be able to do it. And I think that that requires a level of work and effort on you to make sure that you're building future leaders.
Yeah, man. I just, it's a tough puzzle,
It is.
right? It's a tough thing, but that's one of the reasons that we're here is to help build a framework for this, because this is, we talk about at the outset of this podcast that we have 50 years of leadership between both of us, probably even more when you really kind of do the analysis. But this is what we do because of the necessity of the place that we've come from. We've never got a chance to choose our teams. I don't know about you, Tony. You ever got a chance to choose your team?
I'm not gonna lie. This current team, I've had some input. It's been pretty
Yeah,
nice, but no, not
for the
often.
most part, right? So we an admiral's bottom lines somebody's orders to tell them to come to our command, and we have to deal with the results of that person, right? So, and a lot of times, right, we get these high output operators that we have to turn now, into leaders, right? But once we've communicated openly, hey, you're not a great leader yet, right? And we give them room and give them space to sit with that, to grow with that, and we fill that space with, but this is what we're going to do to help you grow to that next level, right? It can't just be you suck as a leader and hopefully you figure out how to deal with it. Because I've seen that too, where we tell somebody
Sure.
they're a horrible leader, but we don't give them any direction. We don't give them any suggestions. We just tell them, hey, these things you need to do. Go do this better. That's essentially what we're telling people. Oh, just go do better. Now, if they knew how to do better, they would have already done better.
Yeah, for sure.
Like what we talking about, right? We have to take the time, to construct, to understand who that person is and what they need, right? And recognize where they're falling short. Because if that person's insecure in leading that team where they're showing up with, imposter syndrome, guess what? There's answers to that. There's answers to help cultivate a person to help them deal with that, right? You come alongside that person and help to reassure them. Sometimes it's just reassuring and building that confidence in them that they can be a leader, that they can trust that person to do the thing that they need them to do. But you have to make sure that they do X, Y, Z first, right? It's building. You may have picked up on things naturally where you didn't have to study, you didn't have to, but guess what? The normal person has to study. The regular person has to take time to dissect and go through and understand, right? You have to build a structure that accommodates how people see the world, not just you. But when you're leading that person that doesn't understand that, and they're leading through their own worldview, that's where the challenge comes in, and it's a maturity thing. So you start with that entering volley. Hey, you're not there yet, but here's what we're going to do, and you start to you understand who that person is, and you start to build things that's going to put them in a position where they can grow from a maturity standpoint, from an emotional standpoint, and a lot of that is just asking simple questions, right? It could just be that instead of challenging somebody where it's judgmental, you just say, hey, listen, I gave you information. I gave you, information on how to do this. What could I have done better? And you're just being receptive to that feedback. A lot of this boils down to simple questions, reframing things for people instead of from an operator mindset to a leader mindset so they can grow. But it starts with that opening statement too, what I made, where sometimes, the understanding, knowing that I don't know something is the beginning of knowledge. Once you get that person to acknowledge, yeah, you might be right. I'm not good at this yet. Please help me out. If you can get to that point, you're well on your way to really helping that person become a better leader.
That's all we want. That is all we want at Leadership State of Mind. We want to make better leaders. And so if you're in that position, if you're listening to this podcast and you're getting ready to put in this promotion, or this is your first time in leadership journey, acknowledge that you don't have all the answers. Look for a mentor, search for a mentor, start reading, start taking in more information. Look to develop yourself personally and professionally outside of just your knowledge of that job. Because when you can learn people skills and when you can build processes that travel anywhere, then you can go anywhere and create the same repeatable process where you can build winning cultures and winning teams. But you need to be excited about the opportunity to lead, excited about the opportunity to serve. And when you bring that level of excitement and that desire to serve others and to treat people, to have the mindset in your head that I want these people to have it better than I had it because there was never a me for me, then you are instilling in them what it looks like to lead. And then you are having every day the leadership state of mind that is required to build the right teams. So acknowledge that just what got you there isn't going to get you there. Understand that that gap requires growth, requires self-assessment, and requires a desire to want to get better. Continue to watch the podcast, continue to like, share, and follow at Leadership State of Mind, because we are always here to help. And if that doesn't work, then reach out to Armand. What else you got for him?
Yeah, I mean, and that's the key, right? Is we talk about these topics, but we are not a far off. We're not sitting in an ivory castle somewhere, dictating down. We are available, right? If you email us at leadership state of mind, at gmail.com, or you hit us up on social media, and start this dialogue, you're going to reach out and help. We're going to be there, right? We don't have a entering consultation fee. Like if you got questions, like we just want to help. We want to help, right? So now I see all the time on Reddit, and this is one of the things that kind of led me down this. You look on Reddit and the subreddit for leadership, just same question, same question, same question, different words, same questions, same questions, same questions, right? How do I go from this place where I've been killing it to now leading a team? I have no idea where to start, and you see it so much, and we are making ourselves available for that gap to help you along the way. So I'm looking forward to helping as many people as possible. Been doing this forever, and this is what I love. This is why I gain my joy from. I know Tony is the same way, right? So we just want to help you become the best leader that you can.
Sweet, man. All right, guys. We will continue to put out good content for you, continue to help you on your leadership journey. Please continue to like, share, follow. Check us out at YouTube, on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn. We are out there. So come check us out, share with your friends, and keep an eye out for the next one. Peace.
Yeah.